The night was still when it happened. Ziyu sat by her desk, the glow of her lamp casting soft shadows across the room. In front of her lay a blank sheet of paper, one she had stared at for hours, unsure if she should write the words that had been trapped in her heart for years. She didn't plan to send it. She just needed to let it out, to finally write down the emotions she could no longer carry in silence. She began slowly, her pen trembling. Tian Xuning, she wrote, her heart pounding at the mere thought of his name. There are things I've never said. Things I was too afraid to admit, even to myself. Every line was a confession, raw and real. She wrote about the first time they met, the way his laughter filled the rehearsal room, how his kindness made her feel seen. She wrote about the nights when they trained until dawn, pushing each other to be better, and how, somewhere between the exhaustion and the laughter, she fell for him. But she also wrote about the fear of ruining what they had, the friendship that meant everything to her. I didn't want to lose you, she confessed in ink. So I chose silence. Ziyu never intended for Tian Xuning to read it. It was her secret, a love letter that was meant to stay hidden forever. She folded it neatly, slid it into an envelope, and tucked it between the pages of her old notebook. A private goodbye to a feeling she thought she could finally let go. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. A few days later, while preparing for their joint fan event, Tian Xuning borrowed that very notebook. He was looking for rehearsal notes, something simple. He didn't expect to find an envelope with his name written on the front, in Ziyu's delicate handwriting. He hesitated. Maybe it was something professional, he thought. Maybe it was just a message. But curiosity got the better of him. He opened it, and as his eyes scanned the first few lines, his breath caught. It wasn't just a letter. It was her heart. Every word was filled with emotions he had never realized she carried. The laughter they shared, the moments she secretly cherished, and the love she never dared to show. It was all there, laid bare on paper. He read it again, slower this time, his hand shaking. The more he read, the heavier his heart became. He had always known Ziyu was special, her calm, her kindness, her quiet strength, but he never knew she had loved him this deeply, for this long. By the time he reached the end, his eyes were wet. The final line stayed with him like an echo. Even if you never know, I'll always be grateful that you were once the reason my world felt brighter. Tian Xuning sat in silence for minutes that felt like hours. He didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or run to her. The emotions were too strong, too real. He realized that somewhere along the way, he too had felt something he never dared to name. But now that he knew, everything had changed. Later that evening, Ziyu noticed something was off. Tian Xuning was unusually quiet during their rehearsal. He'd glance at her, start to speak, then stop himself. She didn't understand why until he finally handed her the letter, her letter. Her heart sank. Ziyu, he said softly, his voice trembling. You didn't mean for me to read this, did you? She froze, words failing her. No, I. But before she could finish, Tian Xuning continued, it's beautiful. Every word. I don't know how to respond to something so honest, so real. Ziyu felt exposed, vulnerable in a way she never imagined. It wasn't supposed to be read. I just needed to let go. He nodded slowly, his eyes filled with emotion. And yet, maybe you were meant to write it. Maybe I was meant to find it. The room fell silent. The only sound was the soft hum of the city outside, a quiet reminder of the world that kept spinning while their hearts stood still. Tian Xuning took a deep breath. Ziyu, do you know what's strange? Reading this made me remember every moment we shared, and I realized maybe I've been running from something too. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? He smiled faintly, his voice trembling as he said, I think I was afraid too. Afraid of how much I cared. It was a moment that hung in the air, fragile yet powerful. For years, they had built walls of professionalism and friendship, pretending not to feel what was always there. But now, the truth had slipped through, and there was no going back. They sat together in silence, words no longer needed. The letter between them wasn't just a confession. It was the bridge they had both been too scared to cross. By the next morning, the internet was buzzing. Fans noticed something different between Ziyu and Tian Xuning during their live event. The glances, the smiles that lingered, the tension that felt charged with something deeper. "They are glowing," one fan commented. "Something's changed." And maybe it had. That night, Ziyu posted a simple message on her social media: "Some truths find their way, even when we try to hide them." Tian Xuning reposted it with just one line: "And sometimes, that truth is what sets us free." The post broke the internet. Thousands of fans flooded the comments, calling it the softest confession ever. Others said, "So the letter was real, and this is love unfolding in real time." Neither of them confirmed the rumors, but insiders close to the two said their dynamic had quietly shifted. They spent more time together, laughing more easily, exchanging glances that no longer needed to hide behind words. What started as an accident had become a turning point, a silent confession that opened the door to something genuine. In the end, it wasn't about the letter itself. It was about what it represented: the courage to be vulnerable, the beauty of timing, and the power of words that finally spoke what the heart had been saying all along. And though neither Ziyu nor Tian Xuning has labeled what they are now, fans believe they already know the truth. Because sometimes love doesn't need an announcement, it just needs one moment of honesty to begin again. Weeks passed after the accidental confession, but the effects of that single letter continued to ripple through both their lives. Ziyu tried to carry on as if nothing had changed, rehearsing, performing, smiling for the cameras, but deep down, she knew everything was different. Every time she stood next to Tian Xuning, she could feel the weight of his gaze, the unspoken words that lingered between them. They were still partners on screen, still close friends off it, but the air between them felt charged. Every rehearsal was filled with quiet tension. Every shared glance felt like it carried a secret only they understood. One evening, as they wrapped up a long day of shooting, Tian Xuning approached her. The studio lights were dim, the crew had already left, and the world outside had fallen into the hush of night. "Ziyu," he said, his voice low, almost hesitant. "Do you ever regret writing that letter?" She froze for a moment before answering softly, "Sometimes. Not because of what I wrote, but because it made everything feel complicated." He nodded slowly, stepping closer. "It made things clearer for me." Her heart skipped a beat. "Clearer?" "Yes." He smiled faintly. "I used to think what we had was simple friendship, teamwork, mutual respect. But now, I realize it was never that simple. I think I've always felt something more. I just didn't have the courage to name it." Ziyu's breath caught in her throat. "Tian Xuning, don't say things you'll regret." "I won't," he replied firmly. "I just don't want to pretend anymore." Silence fell. The city lights shimmered through the window behind them, casting a soft glow around their faces. It was as if time had stopped, two people standing on the edge of something fragile yet inevitable. He took another step closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "You said in your letter that you didn't want to lose me. But what if holding back means we lose each other anyway?" Ziyu looked away, her eyes glistening. "I'm scared, Tian Xuning. You know how people are. If they find out, everything will change. The work, the image, the fans." "I know," he interrupted gently, "but I don't care about the noise anymore. I care about you." Her heart trembled at his words. For years, she had dreamed of hearing them, yet now that they were real, she didn't know what to do. The reality of their world, the pressure of fame, the fear of public scrutiny, it all weighed heavily on her. Before she could respond, he added quietly, "Let me prove that we can face it together. Just give me a chance." For a long moment, Ziyu said nothing. Then she finally whispered, "Maybe I just need time." He nodded. "Then I'll wait, for as long as it takes." That night, as Ziyu walked home, she replayed every word he said. Her chest felt tight, her mind torn between what her heart wanted and what her world expected. But love, as she would soon learn, doesn't stay hidden for long. A few days later, paparazzi photos surfaced online, Ziyu and Tian Xuning walking together late at night after a recording session. They weren't holding hands, but the closeness between them, the tenderness in their smiles, spoke volumes. The internet exploded. "Are they dating?" one headline screamed. The letter was real, another declared. Within hours, fan communities were buzzing, dissecting every detail, every glance, every post. ZU's management stayed silent, while Tian Xuning's team gave a vague statement. They share a close friendship and deep respect as colleagues. But everyone knew something real was unfolding. Behind the scenes, ZU was overwhelmed. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing, her notifications never stopped. Messages from fans, questions from the press, it was chaos. But in the middle of it all, one message stood out. It was from Tian Xuning. "Don't worry about what they say," he wrote. "Let's just live the truth, quietly." Those words grounded her. She realized then that maybe she didn't need to run anymore. Maybe she could just breathe. A few weeks later, during a live interview promoting their new project, the host playfully asked, "You two seem very close lately. Anything you'd like to tell the fans?" ZU laughed nervously, glancing at Tian Xuning. He smiled back, eyes warm. Then, with a calm yet deliberate tone, he said, "Sometimes, when you find someone who truly understands you, you don't need to label it. You just hold on to it." The audience erupted with cheers and laughter, but those who knew how to read between the lines felt the message loud and clear. After that interview, their bond seemed unshakable. On and off screen, they shared a quiet connection that no rumor or headline could distort. They didn't make grand declarations, but every smile, every shared look, told its own story. Months later, during a concert special, ZU performed a new song she had written, one that fans instantly linked to the letter. The lyrics spoke of hidden feelings, accidental truths, and the courage to love despite fear. As she sang, Tian Xuning watched from the audience, his expression filled with pride and something deeper. When the performance ended, he stood up and clapped, the first to rise in a standing ovation. That moment said everything. After the concert, ZU found him backstage. "You came," she said softly. "I wouldn't miss it for the world," he replied. "You sang your heart tonight." She smiled, her eyes glimmering. "I just finally stopped being afraid." And in that quiet, private moment, Tian Xuning reached for her hand. "Then maybe it's time I stopped being afraid too." For the first time, ZU didn't pull away. It wasn't a dramatic confession or a viral announcement. It was something far simpler, two people finally meeting halfway after years of silence and hesitation. Fans would later call it the quiet love story that began with an accidental letter. But for ZU and Tian Xuning, it wasn't about how it began. It was about how it changed them, teaching them that love, no matter how unexpected, always finds its way when the heart is ready to be heard. And perhaps that's the beauty of it, that a single letter, written in secret, could reveal what neither of them had dared to say out loud, and begin a love story that was never meant to happen, yet destined to last.